All right, I know you guys don't want to hear it. Never stopped me before. Maybe you guys don't want to see it, but a year ago at this time, remember? We had the open sign,
How
right?
many props do you have over there on your side of the table?
So I found this in the back of my car approximately 3 minutes ago. I made a mad dash into the parking lot. I usually don't throw anything away until I have to, and back of my car can be a bit of a file cabinet. In this case, it worked to my advantage. The open sign. Should I keep it up here? Do you think Monti's open for business, or was this like so last year when you were 4th overall?
You don't have room on your side of the table to put that anywhere.
That is true. File this away for a moment. Save that thought. Darren looks like he's deep in thought.
No, I was just thinking to myself that when you've got probably 20 teams that want to be open for business to trading backwards, it's probably going to be tougher to trade backwards.
That shirt is resplendent. Can I just say that?
Thank you.
That's
I appreciate that.
You know, I had a bunch of high school senior dudes at our house recently going to senior prom, and a lot of them wearing a shirt quite like that.
Wow,
so, Darren, you're rocking that pretty well for being
rude.
someone who's out of the 18 to 34 demo.
You know what?
That
morning,
works. You're pulling that off.
This morning, Danny, we were talking. Paul was having a conversation with Adrian Wilson, and talked about how he's in his off-season program right now, and would challenge basically Adrian Wilson.
Oh boy, yeah. I never quite look like Paulie Pencilneck as when I'm standing next to Adrian Wilson, and I'm going to have to do that for 4 hours.
Hey, at least he didn't talk about you like he talked about Larry Fitzgerald. But that's a story for another day.
It can always get worse.
That's a story
Larry.
for another day.
So you're right, Danny. The props are aplenty right now. I mean, we got to fill time between now and draft night. So just let you know, if you have a really big idea, or maybe if you add true value, the light will come on, just like that.
And you're the keeper of the light?
Actually, no.
That is so getting clipped.
I mean, this will be activated upon anyone's nomination. The light will go on. I'll just have my finger on the button, or Darren can reach over. You know, he's got the good wingspan over there. I don't know if
I'd rather have your finger on the button than other people.
So anyway, we have this over here, and once again, from the back of the vehicle, pom-pom. Not exactly sure why, but
I'm beginning to wonder what your car really truly looks like.
I'm surprised as such a big car guy that yours seems to have so much
point. That's
junk
true.
in it.
Thought I'd dress. Well, there's daily drivers, and then there's collector cars. So don't mix the two of them.
Okay.
They're two very distinct groups over there. Now, as for, and I kind of decorating here a little bit because we hosted a party recently at Casa Calvisi, and I got absolutely zero decorating input whatsoever. You've never seen somebody take so many orders from their spouse as a private in boot camp. I mean, I take a little glee here and just sort of decorate a little bit, and we have the light once again if you say anything worthwhile. Like, for example, I'd say the number is 7. There have been 7 position groups mocked to the Arizona Cardinals so far. Guard, tackle, D-line edge, corner receiver, and now a late charger, middle linebacker.
Inside linebacker, we're going to say, right?
I'm saying middle linebacker.
Okay.
If you're going 16 overall, you want a Mike backer. And Rob Fredrickson fought me on this on Red Sea Report. He said, Paul, too soon, referring to some of the other picks, right, that didn't belong to this regime. But if you're looking at this depth chart right now, need or want middle linebacker?
Need. I don't know that I'd make that same argument for picking that at 16.
Jahad Campbell has been invited to the green room. Jahad Campbell has visited the Arizona Cardinals, according to reports. What do you make of that, Darren?
Well, it's funny that you bring up visits there, Paul.
Okay.
Because this was a topic I wanted to get on. I don't want to get too far away from middle linebacker and Jahad Campbell in the least. And somebody on my mailbag this week, the great Tim DeCovey, who is a relative of Kent DeCovey, the one-time Pittsburgh Pirates
the submarining reliever.
Tim is a huge Cardinals fan, but and a long time. But he wanted to draft Campbell. But back to the original thing about the visits. Again, number one. They're 30 visits. They're called, quote-unquote, 30 visits. They're not top 30 visits because that implies that it's the top 30 guys you're trying to look at, which it never has been. Tim Hightower was a 30 visit. Levi Brown didn't even get a visit, and he was the 5th overall pick. So that's number one.
Okay. There really is no correlation between visit and draft
and
pick.
Monti Ossenfort talked about it last week. talked about it being guys that they want to spend more time with for whatever reason. Didn't get enough time at the combine with them, haven't talked to them much at all, might have a medical recheck. Like, to me, if you're Jihad Campbell and you're coming off the injury,
Sure, shoulder surgery.
that's probably why you want to bring him in here. You want your doctors to take a closer look at him. Going back to Campbell himself, the great Tim Tecovey thought he could be the next Darryl Washington. In which case I said, are we still talking about Darryl Washington? This has been a decade. But anyways.
It is amazing. Darryl Washington and Darren's mailbag. There is a correlation.
Absolutely true. Look, if Campbell turns out to be another Patrick Willis, I'm all in.
Oh, that's a good one. Because I was thinking, if you're getting Luke Kuechly or Fred Warner or Bobby Wagner, Patrick Willis.
All those guys. Like, if you're getting that guy, then 16, by all means, but you better be sure that he's that guy. And I don't know. The thing is, and we've talked about this with Dani a million times because she was at the Combine talking to all the analysts, talking about this group and how there's only, I was rereading a quote that Jeremiah gave you while we were in Indy, and how, like, there's only, like, a handful of guys that you see as Pro Bowl players in this draft. Not many. I don't even think you're getting outside of 10. So does Campbell fall in that range, or is he in that secondary range where everybody's saying you could get the same guy at 15 or 16 as you could at 11 or 12 as you could at 35 or 36? And that's why I would hesitate about a linebacker. But again, we don't know what these guys have drafted. If you see Jihad Campbell as the second coming and you see, I don't know, throwing a name out there, if you see Mike Green, the edge rusher, who obviously they can use an edge rusher, but you see Mike Green as more of a Marcus Golden type, and I don't mean in style of play, I just mean in terms of what his production might end up being, then yeah, you better think about taking Campbell.
The other thing is, what if Jihad Campbell is there on day 2? What if Jihad Campbell, because of the position he plays and or because of any sort of lingering concern about the offseason shoulder surgeries, plural, that all of a sudden he slides out around 1, and guess what? Monti Ossenfort has been known to make a move to start day 2. Maybe you go up and get that guy.
Look at players Ossenfort's done that with for players who have battled injuries in college, and it has turned out well for Arizona. Cornerback Garrett Williams, wide receiver Michael Wilson. So that wouldn't be out of character. Linebacker is an interesting topic, similar to how we've talked about cornerback, and if that is a need in a spot that could be taken at 16. And it feels like we're having these discussions with really one player in mind when talking about that, compared to defensive line, pass rusher, or offensive line, where there's a handful of options that seem like they would make a lot of sense at 16. Jihad Campbell, cornerback Will Johnson, sure, those could be great picks at 16. It's not the same as saying taking a cornerback or taking a linebacker at 16 is a need. Now we're getting more specific with the players when you're talking about fits for this team, when you're looking at what analysts are mocking for this team. That's why I was saying, yes, a linebacker is a need. I can't make that argument at 16. You could argue for Campbell, sure. You can't sit here and argue for linebacker at 16. Is it a need? Yes. Now, have the Cardinals addressed some of that in free agency? Yes. It's a different argument. It feels like apples to oranges when we're comparing, D-line, edge, and offensive line, and now we're bringing in cornerback and linebacker.
I love that point, Dani, so props to you. Because I'm pre-writing my advance.
Wait, did you say props or did you say light?
Light. Let there be light.
Yep.
I will say that working on my advance for Wednesday in terms of the draft, and I'm trying to take a big picture of positions they could look at 16, and that's when I'm writing it, I'm realizing there's going to be a little bit of a hole there because, again, to say you're taking an edge or a guard with that first pick is different than if you're saying you're taking James Pierce or Tyler Booker. Like, again, especially for the first round, like Dani said, the player specifically matters. It's different in my opinion from second round on, maybe early second, it's still the player, but then it becomes about position. That first round is about getting the right guy who's talented enough. I don't want to say regardless of position, but then it muddies the waters there.
That's the argument of best player available versus position of need. So even though linebacker or cornerback isn't as much of a need when you're talking about short-term or maybe long-term as offensive line, edge, or defensive lineman, if that player is so good and you really feel like they can make an impact long term for this team, then that doesn't make it a bad pick. It's just a different discussion.
Once upon a time, Darren was a hockey beat writer.
Long time ago.
You know what just happened? Dani just lit the lamp.
Oh, there she did. She did light the lamp.
I'll say
Werewolves in London. Is that going to play next?
I'm winning, by the way. I'm the first one to get a lamp light.
That's true. That's true. Darren, did you get assist? I got assist too. Hockey assist.
Hockey
Everyone
assist.
gets an assist.
Sure.
That's how
There's
that
only
works.
3 of us.
Here's the other thing I'll say about the whole position versus player, first round and beyond. I mean, there are just some position groups that are first round worthy. Like edge, to me, it's so hard to get. I mean, it's number 2 in the power poll of all positions in football. Quarterback, get to the quarterback. That where else do you get a truly elite edge guy but in the first round and usually in the first 10 picks? Now, the stinking Rams, got Jared Verse last year at 19. So if, for example, the Cardinals consider one of these edge guys to truly be elite, and maybe a guy who didn't have his greatest final season, like Mikael Williams out of Georgia. He injured his foot in the season opener and supposedly was never 100% the rest of the year. Still ended up second team All SEC. But you're thinking, wait a minute, there's a lot more under the hood with this kid, and he falls to 16. We can't resist, but also just because of the position he plays.
Which is interesting you say that, because not wrong. However, in this particular draft, there are a lot of guys. Now, again, if a guy's elite, that changes the equation. But with so few quote-unquote elite players, we're not sure which of these guys are going to be considered elite.
Okay, so the light goes off for me. All right, I got that.
I think you make a good point. But in this case, like, there are far more talented edge guys that can help a football team that are available this year than, say, a guard.
True.
So while you wouldn't normally want to go grab a guard over an edge rusher at 16, if Tyler Booker is, and I'm just throwing his name out there, by far and away the guy you think is the best at guard, and you might be willing to pass on Michael Williams or James Pierce because you're so close in thinking he's compared to a couple of the other guys that might be there at 47, a Birch or somebody. Like, then you're willing to go get your guard and then go get that edge guy in the second round.
Yeah. No, that's sound thinking. I get it. You know who is wrong about the Jihad Campbell? Turns out me. I just looked up Edgerrin Cooper, the rookie linebacker, middle linebacker for the Packers. Remember, he was the dude last year, number 1 at that sort of position. Yep. You look at the measurables, he's 6'2", 230. Jihad Campbell's 6'3", 235. Edgerrin Cooper ran a 4.51. Jihad Campbell a 4.52. But guess what? They got him at pick 45 last year, which could be a reason why the Cardinals brought in Jihad Campbell, because if he's sitting there at 47, especially with injury concerns, Monti would have a decision to make. That's interesting, I think.
I'm glad you found the context of that.
So, anyway, I throw that out there. What do you think? Dani, okay, to go, you're on a roll right now. Dani's on a heater. Power poll of position needs. Take those 7 position groups. What do you think is most coveted to least coveted in the Cardinals war room, which is 2 floors above us? And your key card will not get you into the war room, just so you know. If you haven't realized that already, you are denied access.
Okay, so we're talking if the Cardinals stay at 16.
Right.
And one more time, list the positions, please.
Just the power poll of needs. Like for me, I'd probably go with guard 1. But there's guard tackle, D-line edge, corner receiver, middle linebacker. Give me your top 3. In terms
top 3?
Most coveted. If you're Monti and JG, the most coveted just by position. Where do you think? Because every team has needs. Where do you think they rate them?
Top 3, guard, tackle, edge.
Interesting. Offensive tackle.
Yes, offensive tackle, guard, edge.
All right, Darren?
I'm going to go with, that's a tough one. I'm going to go with where they sit right now, needs-wise. And again, this doesn't necessarily impact first round because it becomes very specific to the guy himself. I'm going to go guard, edge. I might go wide receiver third.
I will go guard, edge, and then I will throw in D-tackle.
And that's also very fair. There are so many arguments to be made for all these spots. Because, again, Steve bringing up Steve Keim. Steve Keim always used to say, his saying was, your needs in April aren't the same as September, October. Monti Ossenfort said something similar last week where he said, your needs now are not necessarily the same that they're going to be in 2 months, in 6 months, in 1 year. So it's all the same concept, which is why you need the good players. I mean, we can talk about it all day. As of right now, do they need a defensive tackle for opening day? They do not. Are they going to need one in 8 months when half those guys might be done with their contracts or they might want to move on because of ages or whatever? Yeah, they very well could be. So those are the things that you've got to kind of Tetris together when you're talking about on draft day, who you're taking, what you're doing. I loved that Garrett Williams was one of the players that came out to talk to the media for the first day of workouts that happened to be earlier today as we record this. And I asked him, I said, there's a lot of talk about whether you guys are going to get a cornerback in the draft. And as one of the 72 cornerbacks that they have, that they've collected over the past couple of years, I mean, you could make an argument, why would you take another cornerback? And I loved his answer. Now, Garrett Williams also is probably one of the most safe guys in that room. But that being said, he said, it wouldn't bother me because it's about winning and it's about getting better. And if the powers that be feel like that player is going to help us win, that's what it's about, whether it's at your position or another position. And I'm paraphrasing. But.
And Patrick Peterson being back in the house, and Garrett Williams was at the Pat Pete press conference wearing the same number and said, in his words, to quote, pay homage to the great Patrick Peterson, it reminds you of what an elite cover corner can do for a defense. For example, if you look around the league, right? Patrick Surtain II, your NFL Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, New England. Guys, we watched the New England game. Drake May, okay, promising. Other than that, they had one player, one standout player. His name was Christian Gonzalez. And Will Johnson has been comped to a Christian Gonzalez. So is it the greatest need on this team? Cornerback? No. But again, Will Johnson was hampered by injury his final year at Michigan. So if his value has been suppressed a little bit, if a healthy campaign his last year at Michigan would have meant he was a surefire top 10 pick and Patrick Surtain went 9 overall once upon a time. I mean, Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley Jr., both top 5. If you can add a Will Johnson, and he's that sort of guy to this defense, once again, the whole your needs today aren't your needs tomorrow, just go grab that guy if he's that elite.
You're not going to find pushback from me with an argument like that. Not at all.
So I am curious where corner might rank. To Darren's point, they've definitely devoted some assets to it over the last couple of years.
But when you look at the last couple of years, it hasn't been first-round picks. They've been able to find impact players later on in the draft and been able to develop and not use a full rotation, but this coaching staff clearly feels comfortable. If they feel like they need to make a change at some point in the season, they've shown that they're willing to do that.
All right, so the latest report out, this is as of Tuesday morning, Cleveland and the Giants are now fielding trade inquiries for their early picks, which would seem to build into there are so few star players. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter appear to be 2 of them. So if Cam Ward's going 1, maybe teams are going after the all-pro type talents.
Yes.
And maybe there are only 2 after that. Once again, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. So they're open for business.
Is there a chance New York and Cleveland have not been getting phone calls and that's their way of telling teams, here's my number?
Yes.
Please.
Yeah,
We talk about the agents, putting stuff out there for their prospects. I mean, teams do the same.
That's right. Maybe they're reminding everyone, our neon open sign is lit and it's in the front window.
Why won't anybody call me?
Speaking of being lit, as the kids say, how about out of context here this week?
Please tell me you're clipping that. You have to clip that one.
Can we have like an out of context blooper reel or something?
Stuff flying everywhere, and you're going to get wet.
Normally I am team Paul Calvisi. I don't know that I follow this analogy.
We are in a splash zone right now.
We just lost every listener. Are my only options Balderdash or Splash Zone?
Correct.
Antithesis, Paul. Do you know that word?
Is it older than Balderdash?
I think we're all in agreement. It just sounds like we're not.
Well, that's kind of our shtick.
Maybe.
And you can edit it out if you want.
When we talk about the Cardinals adding another defensive lineman, he gets all pissy.
I want no part of this conversation.
Yeah.
That was the dumbest thing anybody ever thought.
You will get domination. I will give you everything I have.
What was the movie Mean Girls, where they tried to speak the word fetch right into existence?
I'm
Oh, yeah.
intrigued.
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting culture with Paul.
Okay.
Stop trying to make fetch happen.
There are GMs and then there are mixologists. How about going to space?
I'm not going to space.
I'm not going into space.
Every space movie, something goes wrong. There's either some huge alien or monster or something falls off the damn spaceship.
What if I opened that blind and the moon was right there, right in front of your face?
So you would go into space, Paul.
Absolutely.
He's an aliens guy. Why wouldn't he?
That's true.
Winning behavior, baby.
You can lead a horse to water, doesn't mean I'm going to... And I just screwed
Paul's just-
something else up. That's our third edit by my count, by the way.
You're supposed to go for a run. And I have partaken of once or several dozen times.
A day.
Gave birth to a stranger's baby. What was I thinking?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, come
Okay, well, that was a walk-off mic drop moment right there. Darren was batting cleanup in
was
that
pretty
edition
good.
of Out of Context. Our Jim Omandro does get the light. He lit the lamp here, so it's a 2-goal game so far. Although, Paulie protests. When I say edit it out, and then it purposely gets edited in, really? I mean, I'm making a very apt analogy between mixologist and bartender, and then all of a
Oh,
sudden
that's what it was.
we cut to UFOs. Really?
So were you a mixologist or a bartender when you had a party that Darren and I
that's
were
right.
not invited to this weekend?
Definitely a bartender. Definitely, yeah. A buddy of mine actually worked his way through college as a bartender, so I appointed him. I'm great at outsourcing. I'm like the Bruce Arians of parties. I just
that's quality.
outsourced
I
everyone.
am not a good bartender. I have a heavy hand.
Oh, jeez.
You do not want me
Okay.
making your drinks.
All right. You and Dave Pash. That story's for another time. So here we go. We mentioned that Cleveland and New York are open. By the way, that report was according to sources from ESPN's Peter Schrager. ESPN's
Yes.
Peter Schrager was made the jump.
Quickly made the move.
Yes, he did.
That's where all the money is, Paul.
Yeah, I guess that's where. So here's the other thing I'm wondering. How many quarterbacks in this year's first round? Remember last year? This was easy money. The NFL prop bet was 4.5. There were 6 quarterbacks that went by pick 12. This year, do you think there might be 4? Because as I've been explaining to Craig Greeley, there's something a little suspicious, a little fishy about Jalen Milroe getting invited into the green room in Green Bay. Really? So if you're looking at Cam Ward number 1, a lot of mock drafts now have Shedeur Sanders going to New Orleans number 9. Very feasible. Jackson Dart has worked his way into the first round. I don't think there's any doubt at this point. And then all of a sudden, where's Jalen Milroe, and which team is going to trade in Lamar Jackson style into the back of round 1 and grab that 4th quarterback? Not that your desperation for a quarterback makes the pick legitimate or warranted. Think of the quarterbacks who have been spoken into the first round just based out of sheer need over the last decade plus. From January to April, think of Anthony Richardson and Zach Wilson and Trey Lance. I mean, think of Daniel Jones and Mitchell Trubisky, who went number 2, right? And then go all the way back to like Blake Bortles and Blaine Gabbert, Jacksonville, within like 3 years of each other. So there are quarterback desperate teams, and history says that some of these QBs are going to be overdrafted. And hopefully that'll happen before 16,
Yeah.
and it'll benefit the Cardinals.
I'm fascinated to see where all this lands. The Shedeur Sanders stuff continues to be way crazy. Nobody really knows. Jackson Dart, what's going to happen with him? Do the Steelers want a quarterback in the first round? Do the Saints? Is everybody going to wait till the second round? I mean, I'm with you. Like normally people are going to move up. Like if you're the Lions or Eagles or Chiefs right now, like, are you getting excited that you might be able to trade out of the back end of the first round,
Sure.
pick up some stuff for
Yep.
a quarterback that you're not going to want?
More than just those teams. I mean, when you're looking at the list, there's probably 10 teams bottom of the draft that don't need a quarterback that teams could make a move with.
It's true. Although when I'm thinking of the very bottom, you're usually, if you do not think a guy is a first round talent and you're just trying to hedge your bets and get that 5th round thing, you'd rather be at 30 or 31 or 32. I don't think you're trading out of the second round up to like 22.
That's fair.
To
but
get
I mean,
a guy.
even starting 27 Baltimore, then it's Detroit, Washington, Buffalo, Kansas City, Philadelphia.
Where do the Rams select again?
26.
That's my sleeper quarterback team.
Yes.
For which
For the
guy?
Rams.
Yeah, but like which one do you
Like
have?
Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
So, maybe even if Shador falls all the way, which he might, I can see the Rams going quarterback.
Oh, I 100% could see that.
Just because it's unexpected?
No, I think it is expected. They were talking
fair.
about getting rid of Matthew Stafford.
That's true.
So, speaking
So
of
they're
quarterback,
obviously thinking of the future.
if you would like to win a Kyler Murray autographed football, and who wouldn't, the Arizona Cardinals podcast sweepstakes. Yes, the podcast sweepstakes is now open through April 24th. So you enter at azcardinals.com/listen to win, azcardinals.com/listen to win. Then subscribe to the Arizona Cardinal podcast on Apple or Spotify and boost your chances. Once again, azcardinals.com/listen to win.
I vote our next autographed item is something signed by Darren Urban.
That would be, yes.
I'm guessing absolutely it won't be.
Not
Turn
the,
the, I
not the light.
don't get a light for that idea.
You know what?
Well, it was already on.
Yeah, actually, they reviewed it. It didn't quite cross the goal line, Danny. So it was tough. It's tough.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, is that Omo coming in and denying my win again? Denying Danny's win?
Darren recoils. He recoils at the three words upon further review. He doesn't like. All right, so if you're Kyler Murray, who in the past has offered some draft advice and scouting reports to the front office, if you were to go in there and stump for one player, yes, we're going to name names. The time has come. If there's one player that you're like, you know what? All the research, all the mock drafts you've done, Darren, what do you call it? The mock draft simulator? What is that thing called that you do all the time? The
Mock draft simulator. That works. That's fine.
What's the one name? What's the one name
Well,
that
the Pro Football Focus one. Oh, what's the one name of the? I'm going to say.
If Monty came up to you after the press conference and said, Darren, give me a name, who would you say?
I'm the
that
I
you
would
would
say,
suggest.
Not Kyler would say.
No, you would say.
Oh, I would say. I've really started to, and you're never supposed to fall in love with players, Paul.
That's right.
You're not supposed to fall in love
That's
with
right.
players.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling myself falling out of the Tyler Booker bandwagon.
Falling off.
On.
Oh, on. Okay. Because
I don't know if you can fall on one. You can fall off one.
You can
can't
jump
fall
on. You can jump on.
Join.
Sure.
Leap on. I was kind of torn on him early because of the whole guard thing, and the more I think about it, and one of the reasons I've thought more about it is because in a draft where it feels like there's some iffiness to some of the talent that people are talking about in the first round, especially edge rusher, I've found as you kind of read some of these things.
Yep.
Everybody says Tyler Booker is a great dude, great guy in the locker room, and plug-and-play starter. And at 16, what else do you want? Now, I understand it's a guard, it's a whole thing, but you're helping the offensive line, you're putting in a guy that you're thinking could be your version of Zach Martin. I mean, and again, I'm not trying to say he's going to be Zach Martin, because Zach Martin is a Hall of Famer, or going to be a Hall of Famer, but that's the name that I keep getting lodged in my head.
I'm on the same path, if not Tyler Booker, for similar reasons, Kelvin Banks Jr., and just the versatility of tackle to guard and what is expected of him. And I stand by what I have said all offseason of taking a defensive lineman or an edge rusher is still a good pick, and it's still something that makes sense for this team despite the additions they've made in those rooms throughout free agency. If the depth is as deep as it has been projected and you can still get a high caliber player in rounds 2 and 3 with not having that same depth on offensive line and looking at the talent for some of those top players, if not Tyler Booker, then Kelvin Banks Jr.
Yep.
See, I will say, just jumping in it's a lot of the stuff that I've been reading, and again, nobody knows, but it sure feels like the ebb has been like, well, Banks was going to be picked somewhere between 15 and 22, and now it's feeling like he might go before 15, and then he's not even on the board when the Cardinals pick. That's going to be the thing that we all have to watch, because again, this draft is all over the place. There easily could be guys there that you're not expecting to be at 16 and vice versa.
Yeah, Chicago still needs a tackle. They picked 10. Miami still needs offensive line help. 13. Once upon a time, Tyler Booker was going to either one of those two, and then he's sort of slowly, this slow drip, right? And he's falling down the board.
Who's your guy, Paul?
Walter Nolan. I like Walter Nolan. I like the. It won't be quite like what Washington did, 5-6 years ago when they took 4 first-round defensive linemen in 4 years. But the 49ers had a little pattern of that back in the day, and you follow up Darius Robinson with another first-round defensive lineman. Now, look, is he going to get 50 snaps a game this year? No. But L.J. Collar's on a 1-year deal. Calais Campbell is in season 18. Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, who knows what their long-term future is. So if you got a Walter Nolan, and here's a guy who was first-team All-SEC, has a ridiculous motor apparently, loves the game, came out and said, I'm the next Aaron Donald. Okay, I would vet that one out a little bit. He had fun with that. Aaron Donald actually gave him a call on NFL Network. They set that up. But he has that freak factor of explosion and twitchiness, and he's 300 pounds.
Please don't talk to me about an Ole Miss defensive tackle with a freak factor, please.
Yeah, Darren, come on.
Please.
Come on.
Please.
Okay, this guy hasn't
Please.
fallen out of a second-story window.
This is true.
So I'm going to go Walter Nolan there. And you know what?
That wouldn't be a bad pick.
Look, how do you compete in the division? Matthew Stafford, right, doesn't have the greatest mobility. Sam Darnold. Okay, and that janky Seattle offensive line, and now the 49ers, if Brock Purdy is indeed going to be the guy, and there's reports he was at the 49ers day one of OTAs. George Kittle was not, by the way. Hello, Niners. Guess what? Trey McBride makes George Kittle now the 4th highest paid tight end in the league.
Rumor has it some people at this table may or may not have done a recent mock draft simulator where they made a trade with Minnesota and ended up with Walter Nolan.
And Tyler Booker.
Really? Both of them?
Yeah.
Wow.
Myself included.
So is that a thing that Tyler Booker's poor 40 could actually see him plummet out of the first round? 'Cause there's no way he's getting past Detroit or Kansas City, right? I mean, they both have real needs at guard.
Tyler Booker is going to go in the first round. And again, unless you're making some kind of trade, the Cardinals get their chance at one of these guys. And there's a lot floating around. Like there's the stuff with the Booker stuff. Nolan, I've read a couple things where incredibly talented, might need the right situation in the locker room to keep him, I don't want to say in line, but might be a little bit into himself and needs to get broken of that. So, again, all these guys are this or that, and that's why they're doing all the research. I like all. I mean, obviously, if I did a mock draft where I got Nolan and Booker for the Cardinals, that's huge. I think Kelvin Banks would be great, in particular for what you said. I mean, you could put him at guard this year, and then depending on how it goes, because some people see him as a tackle in this league, some people think he would be better as a long-term guard, but you could put him at guard that first year, and then going forward, he could end up as your right tackle or whatever that you want to end up doing. So I love all those choices. And when you go back to what Kyler would want, to me, Kyler Murray's going to want an offensive lineman.
No doubt.
Yes.
No doubt. Yeah. And
probably doesn't care who.
And once again, going back to the division, what did Leonard Williams do in 2 games against the Cardinals? Look at the Rams' defensive front now, something you're going to have to deal with for at least the next 5 years. Easy. Look at the 49ers. They always have a commitment to building the defensive front, Nick Bosa and company. So, yeah, I can understand that if I'm Kyler Murray. Yeah, you're in there. You say, hey, guys, when in doubt, let's go O-line. No question. And by the way, the whole 30 visit, too, it comes to mind, how many times has Jonathan Gannon said, the first qualifier on any player they draft or sign is, do we want him in the building?
Yep.
So if you're unsure of a player, like maybe you didn't get the chance to vet him out at the combine, or there's some concerns, Walter Nolan for that example. James Pierce Jr., according to reports, he had a speeding incident, and then he had to go to court for that. So he's another one who reportedly visited the Cardinals. So once again, do you want him in your building? Well, bring him into the building and find out.
I'm just going to state for the record that I still want Travis Hunter over all these guys, but I don't think he's going to be there at 16.
At which position?
Yes.
Let me ask you this then. If it really is about quality versus quantity, 2 years ago you got the most rookie starts, the most rookie snaps. Last year you had a 12 draft pick class and then undrafted free agents as well. Think of all the players they have drafted or brought in from the college game the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So if it really is about quality versus quantity, are you willing to give up a pick
to go up
and get somebody. Now, you're not going to go up to number 2 and get Travis Hunter, most likely. But
are you saying move up from 16, or you would move up from 47?
No,
either one.
47, I think, is more likely, depending on who's there. 16 is going to be tough, although the market being what it is and a lot of people want to move down, maybe if there is the particular guy. But again, you got to feel some kind of way, like you're not getting to Travis Hunter. And it's funny that you bring up the position, because I mean, I think Travis Hunter is a wonderful talent, but I think one of the reasons he's so highly coveted is because he can do both. And I thought it was interesting. You know, Zach Gershman just did a story about how Roy Green played both ways. You got a chance to talk to Roy, Cardinals legend, on Big Red Rage. You know, and one of the reasons I wanted Zach to do that story was because Roy will tell you how difficult it is to do both. And I know Travis Hunter wants to do both. And it's going to be interesting to see, to me, he's made it very clear he wants to play both, right? And how a team deals with that, and at what point. We always talk about how players struggle at the end of their careers when they're like the last people to see that they can't play the same way anymore. How does a younger player like Travis Hunter and I'm not saying he won't be able to do both, but like, how does he handle having to lose half his identity if it becomes clear, like, to do one really well, he's going to have to really dial back on the other?
Well, and Roy was pretty adamant about, 17-game regular season, and if you're truly playing both ways, instead of going 50 or 60 snaps a game, you're going 100 plus.
Yeah.
And by the time you get into December, you've played 2 seasons compared to everyone else's 1. So he was pretty adamant. It's really not realistic. It's not feasible. It's not doable. You could try it. But Roy Green, who really is the last player to even come close to doing what Travis Hunter is aiming to do. I mean, there was the 1981 season where Roy Green had 3 games where he had a pick and a catch in each game.
Yeah.
And so, someone who's been there and done that, he said what's most realistic, he's a full-time corner and a heck of a corner. He said is all the skills to be like an elite corner, and then 10 or 15 plays on offense per game in key passing situations.
That seems to make the most logic, rather than being a full-time receiver and then playing a few snaps as cornerback. It seems like it would make more sense to do vice versa. And
to me, the other thing too is if you're close to Travis Hunter and you have his best interests at heart, you know, you could make the argument I deserve more money if I'm doing both of these things. But if you're shortening your career by half, are you really making the kind of money you should, instead of becoming a superstar at one and then cashing out on a couple of contracts?
And what's amazing, too, is like Bucky Brooks, who has a background in scouting and player personnel evaluation, has Travis Hunter, just in terms of talent, rated as the number 1 corner and the number 1 receiver in this draft. That's how talented he truly is.
And that's why it's going to be tough to have anybody not want him to do both.
Also meeting the media to start the offseason was Michael Wilson, right? Do you see the Mike Vrabel quote, by the way, on voluntary workouts? He was talking to the media, and he said, this is the New England head coach now, Mike Vrabel, quote, "Yeah, I write a letter voluntarily to the players to make sure that they voluntarily read it and voluntarily show up." And he smiled. He made sure to use the word voluntarily.
NFLPA's got to love that.
3 times.
Not.
So, yeah. But there was Michael Wilson. There was Garrett Williams. There was Paris Johnson Jr. Was that remarkable? Paris Johnson Jr. said he hadn't played the same position 2 years in a row since high school.
Isn't that crazy? At Ohio State, he played a different position every season. Started as a rookie as the right tackle, moved to the left side last year, and is now going to stay as the left tackle. He made it very clear he is very excited to spend an off season knowing he's going to stay at the same position.
It is an amazing story, and you wouldn't think it to be. And then thinking of the Kelvin Banks possibility, he's played a tremendous amount of left tackle in his career. And then you wonder, okay, if you take him, does he eventually become the left tackle, and Paris ends up going back to the right side? And I'm not saying that, and having talked to Paris about being a left tackle last year and how important it is for him to be left tackle, I would not anticipate that happening, but 1 year at a time, everybody.
It is amazing. I'll just say this before we get cultured with Dani here. The mindset that's in a lot of these players. Don't you see similarities between Paris Johnson Jr., his drive to get better, Garrett Williams, his devotion to the game, drive to get better, Michael Wilson, talking to the media and saying how important it is for him to help his team more, to impact the game more, to do the most with what chances he gets, because he felt like, there were opportunities that were left out there in year 2. But it's the same mindset you see in a lot of these.
They're collecting those players.
Yes. Whatever system they have for identifying the guys who are, quote, all ball, it's not 100%, but it's pretty darn effective and successful so far based on the last 2 draft classes.
Yes.
Okay. There we go. Dani, take it away. Dani, we'll segue to you.
Getting cultured with Dani. It is not just directed at Paul.
Am I the default uncultured Philistine around here?
Yes.
You got me very excited now.
I am on social media and consume more pop culture than both of you combined.
I think I'm being unfairly profiled, but go ahead.
Let's go. I'm going to go with the easy one first for getting cultured. Honorable mention, if you will. I assume you both saw Pope Francis passed away Sunday, Easter Sunday.
Yes.
Rest in peace.
Great. That one doesn't count as one of my bullet points for getting culture. I just wanted to make sure that was stated.
He actually was able to deliver some sort of message on Easter, right? Hours before he passed.
I made this point to my wife. She's like, there were a couple people talking about how he, quote unquote, worked himself to death. And I'm thinking, with all due respect, like, that's at the end of my life, that's how I want to be. I want to be doing stuff. I don't want to be in a bed for a month before I pass away. I like the idea that, okay, right before I pass away, I give an important speech. I think that's kind of cool.
Okay. The next bullet point, I don't know how to segue from that.
I was trying to be genuine there.
I know. I don't know how to segue from that when you're talking about your deathbed. Okay. Boston Marathon was this weekend. Records were broken. The women's race, Sharon Laketti ran her marathon in 2 hours and 17 minutes, which means in almost the span of this Cardinals Underground episode, she would have run a half marathon alone.
Wow. It is, and that's the women's race.
The women.
Right?
So the men's race, the winner was John Courier. He ran it in 2 hours and 4 minutes, making him the first brother of a former champion to win. His brother Wesley won in 2012.
Every time the Boston Marathon comes around and you see some of the stuff on TV, they show some of those still photos of the first woman who tried to run it, like at the point where they weren't allowed to, there's like a couple of still photos of like race organizers trying to grab her while she's running the course, and she's in this big baggy sweatsuit and everything. And what always blows me away, I should have I didn't know you were going to bring this up, so I should have the year, but like, it wasn't that long ago. It was like the late 70s.
Wow.
It's not like we're talking about like 1950, and they didn't want to let women run it. And to now talk about somebody, I mean, I'm exhausted just hearing her time. That is amazing. I'm well past being able to do it now, but once upon a time I thought maybe I will train for a marathon at some point, and I don't think I would be able to do it.
So I have a high school senior, and I was in this seminar, like this whole speed dating thing. All these different colleges were presenting at the local high school. One of them was NAU, and they threw up their quick slide of athletics, right?
Yeah.
And there's like a sort of smattering. And then in cross country, it's like 7 straight national championships because they train at 7,200.
High altitude,
yes,
baby.
yes.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, next bullet point. Cole Tucker repping the Bird Gang at WWE WrestleMania. I don't even follow wrestling, and I saw this, so I hope you guys saw it on social media as well. He was cheering front row behind the ring in Cardinals gear. There's a great still photo. He's got his arms up cheering. You can clearly see the bird head on his shirt. He's from Phoenix. He's currently a free agent shortstop.
Played with the Pirates.
He's also married to Vanessa Hudgens.
Yep.
Wow.
Went to Mountain Point High School in Ahwatukee.
Okay, that's good. You guys tracked. Who tracked that down? Who actually got all the info?
The first time I saw it, the great Zach Gershman, who along with Craig Grialou loves his WWE.
They love wrestling.
They saw it, and he got a screenshot of it, and it's Cole Tucker. And you can't. I mean, I didn't know it was Cole Tucker, but the guy's standing near ringside and he's got a red shirt with the bird head on it. You can't miss it.
I mean, one of these years, I need an invite to one of Grialou's WrestleMania parties. They're epic, I hear. I mean, totally lit. They're hype. I mean, the cops show up, HOA violations, everything. The Grialou house for WrestleMania, I mean, it's a place to be.
Save the best for last.
Okay.
Thrilling game. Dallas Stars get an overtime victory, and they tie the playoff series with the Colorado Avalanche at 1.
I was
It was
wondering if you were going to
electric.
bring that up.
I had multiple friends and family members in attendance. It was an exciting game to watch. And that's it. You've been cultured. You're welcome.
Really? Okay. All right. It's just sort of a sore spot. It's not
That she's a hockey fan?
that the Coyotes leaving, and
yeah.
I mean,
The Utah Hockey Club did not make the playoffs.
I mean, there is a spot in our top 5 still, the power pole of incompetence and ineptitude, former Coyotes ownership for running,
That's fair.
ruining the franchise.
I saw as the NHL playoffs or the regular season was ending, and there was a clip put out on social media. I follow a Arizona sports history account, and they had a 2-minute clip of highlights from the Coyotes' first home playoff game in 1996, 97, somewhere in there.
Yep.
Whiteout, and the year you mentioned earlier that I'd covered hockey a year. The year I covered it, they were still downtown. That place was crazy in the playoffs. It really was. I mean, you would have thought, and watching those clips again, this could have been a hockey town.
Playoff hockey is some of the best sports environments you could be in.
That first year, the whiteout, and that exact series you're talking about, auxiliary press, which is code for upper deck, and that's where we were, and right next to us were the national TV announcers. Those guys were blown away. I forget who it was. They were veteran announcers. They've been calling games for 30, 40 years, and they were absolutely blown away by the whiteout. And
so it was really cool.
You know who's definitely not open for business? NHL hockey in the PHX.
Oh, that's true.
That's for sure there. So what else
does that mean? Trey McBride's open for business because he's got 70-some million or whatever it is?
Yes, he is.
I will say that as we open the off-season program, and you mentioned George Kittle earlier, and there was all the Brock Purdy talk, and there's questions here and there about whether guys are going to show up because of contract situations, and to know that the Cardinals are so set, and they were set. They made sure they didn't have any issues going into the off-season by making sure James Conner and Budda Baker didn't reach free agency, and then they made sure there was no drama going into the offseason by making sure Trey McBride's extension was done. It's a very pleasant way to operate.
Yeah. When you avoid the drama, when you avoid the distractions, it just strengthens the message that, guess what? It's always and only about winning, about building a team. And guess what? All levels of an NFL franchise are part of that. And so if you can get those deals done early and eliminate any risk thereof of distractions or any sort of unhappiness, and make sure the locker room, once again, you build from the inside out, not only on the field in the line of scrimmage, but you build from the inside out in the locker room, right? Got to make sure leadership is there and players feel like they're rewarded for a job well done.
I can only imagine the amount of comments made to McBride in the locker room Tuesday, the first day of phase 1 of the off-season program, which is really just strength and conditioning. But
right.
I mean, I'm sure they've all reached out to him, right? Or maybe seen him right off campus. But for everyone to kind of be together, I can only imagine what was said to him.
So, Paul, you got big plans for Thursday night? Got anything in particular going on?
So, it'll be like our Coachella. We'll be up there on stage. It'll be the Red Sea. The Bird Gang will be out there.
You're headlining.
Draft party out
as far
at
as the
State
eye
Farm
can
Stadium.
see. And, somebody needs to hold the mic for the great Adrian Wilson, so he'll be out there.
You got any details for us? What time gates open? Do you know that? Is that 4:30?
4 o'clock, gates open, 5
bad.
o'clock, And so, once again, you need a digital ticket. Go online and sign up, but it's free admission. Free parking. The only words better than free parking would be all access. We'll give you all access out there. We have a great track record of getting the very first interview with the Cardinals' first-round pick because if indeed they're there in the green room at Draft Central, they have like a satellite uplink, and then boom, he's on the Jumbotron. Last year it was Marvin Harrison Jr., and then all of a sudden right next to me, I look straight up, and it's Paris Johnson Jr., and he's grabbing my mic, and he's interviewing his former teammate at Ohio State. So
most importantly, you get to spend a couple hours with Paul Calvisi.
No, it's most definitely Adrian Wilson, and so A-Dub will be in fine form. I'm sure I'll take my share of pot shots. There's no doubt about it. But I'm going to leave you with this. Did you see how Green Bay, in part, marketed themselves to the league office and Roger Goodell? You know they have the whole tradition of the players riding the bikes during camp from the locker room out to the field. And apparently that's going to be part of the intro. There's going to be some sort of bike theme that's going to be worked into the ultimate intro at 5 o'clock sharp.
Okay, I like that.
Okay. And then they're also going to have stuff like when the players go through a walkway, it's going to feature artwork from a Milwaukee-based artist who has made each of the pieces from reclaimed wood from discarded furniture collected from across Wisconsin. And anyway, they're going to they sent their marketing package and video in a bike to the league office on Park Avenue. They sent a bike.
Smart.
Creative.
Sent it out there, and then boom,
Get attention.
In the basket was the actual presentation.
I'm curious, after going to Green Bay this past season, the media personalities that are already out there will be out there for a week. And what are they doing in Green Bay?
Oh.
There's 3 blocks of a downtown. And look, we had a great 24 hours, but there's only like 5 restaurants. So what do we think everyone's doing in Green Bay for a week?
Well, so part of that story, they said they've never hosted an event like this. It's one thing like when a visiting team comes in, doesn't come close to the magnitude of attendance for this event. And so Green Bay isn't enough. Green Bay Appleton doesn't have enough hotel rooms. So people are going to be staying in Milwaukee and driving 2 hours. That's
wow.
Or you go to Madison, drive 2 hours. So that's basically what I've read about it. But yeah, we'll see how that goes.
It'll be interesting to see if who the Cardinals draft is actually there. There's going to be about 15 or 16 players there, and 2 or 3 of them are quarterbacks.
Yes, Jackson Dart actually just canceled.
Bailed.
But Jalen Milroe will be there. Shador Sanders said no. He changed his mind. He will not be there, as it turns out. So what does that mean? We don't know. But again, if Monti Ossenfort nails it, once again, remember the whole mixologist versus bartender. Please.
One last time on Cardinals Underground before the draft. Does Shador Sanders go top 10?
No.
Okay, we'll see if we're right.
We'll see if we
do we get the
light the lamp next week based on that.
Another hockey.
Yeah.
More hockey.
Get your sleep. Big draft weekend, and that'll do it for Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.